My high sheet for the 8. Leo Coys and KTK. Lucas on the fly, causing turbulence. Causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans. From the pitch to the stands. My high looks than the South Bank lads. Leo Coys and a homie Krash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah. It's chance, I'm bound to rounds. I love the head to the wars. If it's this, you're off the sea. Free aid, this time is now. Locals on the jump to hold it down. Like the stream and do 5 stars. The mile high Hotspur and crash the car.
Yes, my homies, welcome back to the Confluence. My name is Leo Coys, the Mile High Hotspur, and I'm joined by my homie, a certified rapid sicko, the driver of the Daddy Shuttle, and the co-host of this here podcast. Krash, how you doing, my homie? Talk to me.
Oh, I'm doing great, Leo. I think we were just talking before, and it's like, work and life is just drinking from a fire hose, but I'm not drowning. I'm swallowing it all up as best I can and staying afloat. So it's coming quick, but there's a lot of good things on the horizon, and we're officially in soccer season. So how can you be upset at that?
And I feel that, bro. I feel the same way. Yeah, we say, bro, burning the candle at both ends. But look, my homies, before we get into today's show, I just want to say big up to everybody that has happened to tune into these episodes and will be listening to this one as well. Big yourself up. Remember to drop a 5-star rating, a thumbs up, a like, a follow, a comment, all that good stuff to help us get into that algorithm, get out there to more MLS fans, not just Colorado Rapids fans. Krash, there's been some other type of some other fans following us on the Instagram as well that probably want to keep tabs on what the Burgundy boys are up to this season, and it's good to be able to provide some sort of an outlet, some sort of a place where like my homie Krash says, you sickos can come and get your fix. So big up to all the listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
Krash,
I was gonna say on the top of that, I do want to say a special thank you. I know we're gonna get to the Orlando game in a little bit. But for the Loud and Proud guys over there that have the Orlando City podcast, keeping us live tweeting throughout that scrimmage, keeping us updated. I do really appreciate them showing some respect to us since we weren't able to actually see the game and they were there in person. So we did get some good insights that we'll touch on a bit later. But yeah, like you said, we're getting some more traction. We're getting more listeners. We're getting more engagement on the social channels on X and Instagram and all the things. So just much appreciative to everyone who is supporting us. And again, we're doing this for fun. We're doing this to give everyone a space to connect and talk about the Rapids. And the good, exciting thing is we're finally going to see them play soon. And we're all going to have our own opinions. And we've got a good place where we can voice those, whether in celebration or in grievance. So I'm excited for it.
Ooh, amen, my homie. Come on now, talk to me nicely, Krash. Bro, it's coming down, dude. This game this weekend is going to give us our first glimpse to what we can see. Speaking of glimpses, did you hear the list came out? You know the list that everybody's been talking about for like months. There's like this huge list that is on everybody's lips. It's not the Epstein one. It's the MLS predictions list. It came out, Krash. Bro, how about we start today's episode on that, right? The so-called list came out, and tons of these pundits have us finishing down there near the bottom of the barrel. Krash, tell me, bro, did you feel as disrespected as I did, as most of the fans listening did, or did you say, you know what, they're bang on?
Yeah, it's tough. Well, I mean, I would say the guys over at Loud and Proud in Orlando probably know a whole heck of a lot more than we do right now, which is the hard part. I think starting any season, the Rapids are most likely going to be kind of pushed down to the bottom of the table, and I think that is, because the Rapids aren't that big club. They aren't that, they're not the ones making the giant headlines. They're not making those big moves. So, and I think that's the case here is, we lost Armis in the offseason. We have a brand new coach. We have all the things that are happening, with the losses of the teams and the different people there. And that's the challenge that we're running into is that the fact that we've really ran into the situation where what had happened? What did we do? How did we make our team better in this offseason? Did we lose players? Did we lose a Cole Bassett? Did we lose Ollie? Did we lose all these team members? Did we lose a head coach? And did we get better in the offseason because of that? And I think that, looking at it on its face is the biggest question that everybody's asking is, I don't think we necessarily did, or we haven't been able to prove that we have. And so the question is odds are all the players we added are going to hit to make us one of the best in the MLS? Probably not. But if they do, we could be up there at the top.
Well, I mean, to be fair, on numbers, we're thinner. We're a thinner squad. Is that fair to say, Krash?
Oh, yeah.
But also too, but on the flip side of that coin, Krash, when you get rid of players that perhaps felt that their time was up here and weren't going to give more for this team, then at that point, when you get rid of that player and you bring in a player that does want to be here, at that point, you're kind of better off with the quality over the quantity, if that's the case. So I guess, yeah, you could definitely on paper say that we are a thinner squad, but I look at it as we have a fight coming up this season, Krash. We have a lot to prove, especially now that these predicted finishes came out, if you will. We have a lot to prove, and not to jump forward with what we're going to speak on tonight, but even Matt Wells is going to use something like this as motivation for these players to get them up for this fight. And I would much rather face this type of adversity, this type of season with players in the locker room that do want to be here, Krash, that are willing to give that 110%, right? That are willing to give that more about them, because like I said, if the players that left, they're gone for a reason. Let's just be real, my homies. Everybody, they're gone for a reason. You know what I mean? They're not here. They didn't stay because they're homegrown. They're some of the best players that we've had, or statistically last season they probably were the best. No, it was time to move on, and now we got different batch of players, a different mentality, a different coach at the helm, and I'm the type of person that looks at shit like this, Crash, and I use it to fuel me up. You know what I mean? I use this for fire. So when I seen this, I was like, "Oh hell no, that's massive disrespect." And I even reposted it on my Instagram account. Like, you haters. And I totally get the whole thing. Not everybody's a Colorado Rapids fan like we are and has this way of thinking. But God, I just hope that we can make these guys put some respect on our name, to quote Birdman.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's the key of it is, there's a press conference yesterday and, Matt Wells, touched on it, right? And was asked, I think, about that. And that was the key of it is like, if it were me and if I were on the team and I was a player and I had just put my heart and soul into the past, 2 months of preseason where I'm literally working harder than maybe anybody else in preseason, I'm going to look at that and going, okay, this is what I want to see. I want you to underestimate me. I want to go into these games. I want to go into this first game of the season against Seattle, and everybody's like the odds are not in our favor, right? And that's an advantage, right? That's an advantage to any underdog when you have a bigger fight. And I think, the question will be is the system that Matt has does it resonate? Are the players connecting with it? Are they understanding it? Is it, is the quality of the team as a whole good enough to compete? I think, those are the questions that we really have. I think, and that's going to ultimately come down to the end of it is, did the front office give them enough to really battle against the biggest in the group? And we'll see starting this weekend.
Well, I mean, right, and this is where it's tough for me, Crash, because I have to kind of skew my expectations, and I guess that's just reality, bro. We're not gonna sign. We kind of were talking about this earlier. We're not gonna sign the big name, and that just sucks, bro. That just sucks. As a Rapids fan, it just sucks that we're never gonna be that market to draw that big name. So, I mean, but I still bring that back, bro, to this list here. We finished ninth last season, or was it 10th? I forget. Was it ninth, eighth, ninth?
Yeah, 10.
We just whatever the case was. I don't think the teams around that area have really strengthened their squad to the amounts that we could say that we possibly hurt ours, if that's sayable. You know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
so I just don't see where the majority of these people see that big of a drop in rankings, I guess. And is it that they just probably don't have the faith in I guess, in the new manager, or not that they don't have faith, Crash, but it's shooting in the dark, you know what I mean? Because you don't know what to expect with this team. You don't know what to expect, like you just said, with the philosophy of this manager. It's all kind of just in the dark now. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I think
it's
a lot of
bro. It's a shame.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it
Go
is
ahead.
just when you look around the league, you see these teams getting better. You see them adding quality. You see them adding names that have recognition and that are getting that. And I think when you don't see that at the Rapids, you're seeing these signings for unknown players that nobody really knows about, like Hamzat. Sounds great, but is he known around the world? No, he's not gonna be that person coming in who's like, "Oh, yeah, this is gonna be a game changer," or, Dante Sealy. Like, I like it. I like him. I think he's gonna be a good addition to the team, but is he Denny Bouanga? No, right? He's not gonna be that level. Could he be? Possibly, yeah, right? And I think that's the key is all of the players that we have are potentially really good players. It's whether they develop, and so I think everybody's just kinda looking at it going, "There's not enough for me to rate this team so highly." And so it's a wait and see, and I think, we do have some positives, right? Our lovely friend uh, in Rapid, history legend, Marcelo Balboa did give us a nod at 8th place. So he's got a little more insight than most, which I think is a good positive, piece there. We're always gonna get love from him. But then even, after the Orlando City scrimmage, Dax McCarty, posted on X, and I retweeted it, and I think a couple of us were commenting on it, was, you know, if this is gonna be the Rapids and how they're gonna play, I've got them all wrong. And he even did come out later and he responded to some of the tweets about it because he'd put us so low, and he goes, "I think I made a mistake." So it's interesting. It's a wait and see, and I think that's a good place for us to be, and it's not unexpected either. So I'm hesitant, I'm optimistic, but also, we're the Rapids, and sometimes it doesn't always work out for us. So we'll see how the games go, and I'm just excited to see the team play.
Yeah. Plus, I also am a big fan of the element of surprise. These teams that are going to face us, they're going to see that and probably expect to face that. And when they get punched up a bit and peppered up during the match, they're going to change their perception of the Burgundy boys right away.
Mhm.
At least I would hope so, my homie.
Yeah.
Um, you think Mr. And I'm gonna call him Mr. Balboa in case he's listening. You think Mr. Balboa feels he has um to give us the nod at 8th, or
Uh,
because there. he was the one that showed us the most love. And I know he's got that home connection, you know what I mean? But even then, if he's seen something that was off, if he's seen something that he didn't like, you know what I mean? He probably
Yeah.
would call a spade and probably be like, "Hey, probably nick us down to 10th, 11th if it was really as bad as the outsiders are saying, Crash."
Yeah. I mean, and that's the way I look at it is that most of the pundits have no real understanding of what's happening. They're not watching all the things that we're watching, and they don't have access to the players or the training or any of the front office. So, they're just going off of the information that's in front of them. And I'm going to say the information that's in front of them isn't great. But like I said, the one person who got to see the Rapids play with Dax has changed his tune. I think that's a good start. So here's hoping that we can serve all of those pundits a bit of humble pie by the end of the season.
I like that, my homie. I like that. Um, with that bit of a sample piece of what we've seen, and I guess you kind of touched on it with what Dax McCarty said, but it won't be long if we play like that, bro, until the perception starts to shift about the Rapids.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, I think we look with the information that we've got in front of us, and we coming out of that Orlando game, with a 4-1 win, I think that's the exciting thing that we've got, and I'm not really sure exactly what took place there, but at the end of the day, it sounds like Matt was really happy with that. They prepared for it just like it was a regular season game. They didn't have the tired legs that they normally have, and in some of those elements. So I think you look at that as the starting point, and it's a good sign for things to come. So I'm hopeful knowing that that's kind of their approach, and we'll see how it turns out.
Bro, and I guess that's a perfect way to kind of segue into this next part of the podcast, and to kind of start with the next part. You mentioned something. He's Matt Wells said. Obviously, we'll talk about the press conference a bit later, but he mentioned in this press conference that they had that this was the first game, and you just alluded to that they kind of game planned for the opponent. So I guess based off of that, I'm just gonna say the other games that we played, which we didn't hear anything about. We kind of heard very snippets. You kind of touched on one of our first podcasts that we may have probably played against Miami, kind of off of some hints that the gaffer had given us. Um, so uh, we really don't know how much went into that, but he kind of gave us some insight and said this was the first time that they planned for the opponent. So given that they were able to, I guess build up a game plan, or I guess some sort of a detailed plan for this, a 4-1 victory, bro, at an away ground. I'm glad we were able to get more, and I say coverage of this game. We were able to get more updates, like you said, thanks down there in Orlando. Crash, you remember on our last episode here, I kind of was saying, "Hey, my homies, why can't the Rapids kind of set up a camera and give us a nice little stream, a nice little feed? It wouldn't be hard. Maybe something for the season ticket members."
Mhm.
And a couple of days passed, and we were finding out that Orlando City were doing this for their fans. So it would have been nice to be able to get more access to it and be able to see the game to break it down better. But based off of what you saw, the highlights from the Rapids YouTube account and some of the various posts, what is your first impressions, Crash? Just talk to me about this 4-1 against Orlando.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, the biggest takeaway was, and the biggest question that I had is are we going to create chances? And I think I mentioned it on some earlier streams is like, are we going to score goals? Are we going to create opportunities to score goals? I think we look at, the past couple seasons, and some games we could, and some games it was just dreadful, right? I mean, it was no shots on target or limited shots on target. There were very little opportunities for us to create. Didn't look like it was, clicking. And, even look at the last part of the season, this past year in 25, we couldn't score a goal for the life of us. I don't think Hoffa, even got one. I think maybe, there was a stretch of probably 5 or 6 games he didn't even get a goal. And I think that was the thing that it really was a positive thing for me. I think thanks to the guys down in Orlando, give us some insight. Orlando didn't play their best game by any means, and their defense was definitely not the best and up to the standard that you'd expect. But I think that's the point that I really am happy about is when a team's not playing their best, we should score 4 goals. If we're scoring 4 goals when a team's not playing their best defensively, that's the game that we should be playing, right? And so Hoffa got 2 goals. Yapi got a goal and assist. Paxton got 2 goals. Sealy got an assist, right? And so our top 4 attacking players all were on the score sheet. That's what you want from your attackers. And so I think at the end of the day, the way I'm looking at it, I'm very pleased with that. And then the other side of it is, we knew that our defensive backline did not seem to be our starters, right? Keegan, we had Cobb and Harrington there in center back, and then we had Travis over on the left back. And I think, okay, that's Keegan's, got some seniority there, but he's, definitely has not as fast as he used to be. He's a solid defender outside of that. And Jackson, fast, aggressive, really, shining star, but he's young. And then 2 completely, I think the 2 center backs were, they're not even 20 years old yet, right? Not even barely 19, I think. And so like, that's a good sign if we conceded 1 goal, and that goal didn't even come from the run of play. It came from a free kick right off of a direct kick. So I think you look at that, that's a good sign defensively. That means we're doing things, from the guys there. We didn't see a whole lot of defensive support there. I mean, Harrington did get a goal, which is a good thing from one of those guys, from him using his size. So that's positive play there. We're scoring off of set pieces. So take that as a good nod. And then the other side of it, is, Zach was able to score make some pretty key saves that we didn't get to see. So, from the coverage and things that we got, that's a good sign. That means all the team are really stepping up to the plate and playing the game they want to play. Sure, was Orlando in their best form? Were they in the right positions or blah, blah? No, maybe not. But Orlando's not a bad squad. I mean, they have good quality players on the pitch. They just might not be playing as a unit yet. But again, I think that's the point. We want to score 4 goals against teams that aren't organized or aren't together, and that's what you'd want to see. If we would have been a 2-1 slog fest and it would have been really, really challenging and we weren't creating chances, yeah, then I'd be a little more concerned. Or maybe it was a tie or a draw, 1-1. Then it would have been a concern. But the fact that we won that scrimmage pretty handedly shows that means that the team is playing the kind of game that Matt wants them to play.
Spot on with that, my homie. Look, and just to kind of echo all of what you said, bro, I definitely agree with most of that. I mean, with all of that, honestly. But I guess I'll just add to that. I was interested on the little bit of the highlights we got from the Rapids. I was really interested to see if I could kind of see what type of formation where the players were at during the buildup and stuff like that. I thought I seen Josh Atencio and Hazmat playing as a double pivot with Paxton, Aronson. I want to say it was a 4-2-3-1 with Paxton like in a 10, but it could have easily been a 4-3-3 with Paxton just playing that third a bit more advanced just behind the striker. But it paid fruits on the day. He came in clutch with 2 assists. The first one coming off of what stood out to me about his first assist, which was basically a no-look cross to the 6-yard box And who was there to put it away? Rafa Navarro. And Krash, I'm going to do this as many times as I can when it's beneficial. I used to watch a lot of training clips from the Tottenham YouTube account, and you would see tons of practice like this, and a lot of it was Matt Wells instructing the player. And he would show himself, like he would show himself, when I'm getting the ball here, I'm not even gonna look, I'm gonna pass because my striker's gonna be there.
Yeah.
And it was just very reminiscent of seeing those training clips, but being brought into a real life match. So I feel that like we're gonna see tons of that, just that instinctive pass, that instinctive cross into the box, and knowing that your reliable finisher is going to be there to finish those. Now, a good start of the season is to get two of those goals right away in a preseason match. If you're Rafa, that's the best way for you to get your shooting boots on, and you're going to need service like that from these wide players. Now, the second goal for Rafa was a ball that Yapi picks up pretty deep out on the left-hand side there, sends in a peach of a curled-in ball, and Hoffa gets his head on it and puts it in the back of the onion bag. This goal, homie, a beautiful goal. I know Yapi's versatile. I know he plays very well on the pitch with Rafa Navarro. This was just a very sexy combination, very good sequence. Krash, I need your input on this one, homie. Thoughts on that lovely ball from Yapi and a finish, Rafa finish to score his goal.
Yeah, man, that was beautiful. I mean, that was unexpected, from where it came from, the distance, but that was just pure, like, just magic watching him. Yappy, he gets that pass. I think Sealy pushed it forward to him, and he's just on the outside, and he just cuts it back and nonchalantly just boop, just like it was nothing. Like he does this every day, just puts it right where he needs to put it, and it's just right on top of Hoffa's forehead, and he just puts it in the back of the net. I mean, it for me, it's what I want Hoffa to do, right? He's in the right spot. He was able to finish that, and that's his job as a striker. But man, it made me look at Yappy, go, wow, this guy has completely changed since last year. He's intelligent, his vision, his just understanding of where he needs to be, like that passing, like, just he's really stepped up to another level, which is pretty amazing. But also scares me all at the same time, because somebody at that caliber, if he's starting regularly, if, whatever it ends up being, is historically not going to last very long on this team, because he's going to, find an opportunity, across the pond or something like that, which I'm sure he's going to take full advantage of if he can. But um, if not, I think, he's going to be fun to watch. It'll be interesting to see the lineup that Matt ends up going with, because if Yappy is really playing out like on that left wing, then, and with, Hoffa, then that's going to be some exciting games. It's going to be some exciting ball. But the other side of it too is we do need a backup striker. We need somebody who can get more minutes. I know Hoffa, likes to play the full game, but we're going to need somebody who's going to come in off the bench and, like Yappy's done in the past, and get that clutch goal and with fresh legs. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it ends up, but either way, man, it was so beautiful. Like, I just want to see more of that.
Well, and not to veer too far away from this, but I know that I think it was in the same press conference where they mentioned something about looking for a left-footed right winger. Uh, I don't know if you heard something like that, Crash, but they were saying how they wanted a left-footed right winger, basically, I guess, to invert. I would assume, again, something that I would see a lot in like a Tottenham team is the fullbacks definitely inverting and getting the service into the to the striker. So I wonder if, they said they're looking for more players. I wonder if they're looking to fill the role and have more versatility, because you're right. If Yapi's going to be playing on either side of these wings, whether if it's the left or the right, what's going to happen when Hoffa comes out? And then we're going to, how are we going to then move that around? So
Yeah.
definitely interested to see what's going to happen moving forward. But like you just said, if he's going to be able to put in some dimes like that, bro, then take some time on that on that wing and toss some dimes in, bro, by all means. But
Yeah.
talking of dishing out some dimes, homie, Paxton Aronson with 2 assists on the night, and one of his assists was to Darren Yapi, who also, apart from that great pass, had a great finish to dink the keeper, and put in the back of the sack and get himself a preseason goal. Again, Krash, we could say something about Darren Yapi is every season that season by season I've been seeing progression with Darren Yapi, and I'm hoping that this season is another season where probably he kicks into another level, another gear, you know what I mean, and just kicks on. And you're absolutely right on what you said, Krash. I mean, and it just kind of just goes to what we started talking about earlier, just unfortunately not being that the biggest market. If you have a good player that starts to break out, we seen it last season, or was it season before with Bombito, freaking picked up and dipped right away, because he just clicked, you know what I mean? So it could happen, bro. It could happen. But as long as we see some of what's the word? As long as we get to see some of the fruits that bear from that, then let's go for it, my homie. But
Yeah, for sure.
back to the game, Krash. What are your thoughts on first Aronson dishing out a couple of assists, right? We talked a little bit about the cross to Hoffa. What about picking up the ball in the midfield right there and dishing that one to Yapi?
Yeah. No, and I think I think it was it him? Yeah, I'm not sure who got that one, but I think the key of it was, you know, that not necessarily the first assist he had with Hoffa, but was that corner assist he got with Harrington closer to the end, was that Paxton was taking corners. And I think was interesting is like, and it was a good corner. I mean, you put it in a really good place. So, the things we didn't necessarily see last season, and I think with Cole and Ronan out on the field a lot of times, we had that person who was taking set pieces, and that I think, Sealy is a good option, I think, for those set pieces. But seeing him take those corners, I was actually really impressed, which just goes to show his quality is coming out in different ways that we haven't seen. So, it also shows me, that run that he made for that first goal and the things that he's doing. Like, he's doing Paxton things that we got glimpses of last year, but he just wasn't in form. Where I think now he's gelling, and I think this system is clicking for him, and maybe something he's more used to, which I think is pretty amazing to see. And I'm excited to see him really come to fruition because, I think there were a lot of positives for him. We just never got to see those last season, and seeing him fresh this year could be really fun to watch.
Krash, who assisted Yapi's goal, bro? I thought it was a through ball from
Sealy.
it was Sealy. Okay. I had it mixed up. I thought Sealy did the corner kick for Harrington, so I got it mixed up. My bad, homies. Because I was going to talk about the corner kick next, but we got that one there. What about that, Krash? What when you coach, my homie, you would, when you see your team score from a set piece, you know, from a coach's point of view, is that like you see your work? You're like you just said, you see the fruition of your work.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think so because, set pieces are coached, right? You're trying to put them in the right positions and have them understand what you're interpreting them to do, right? And you're trying to, move around and do certain things. I think especially on the attacking side of those set pieces, right? And, and when that clicks and when they're happening, right? That's what you want. I think in those opportunities, like Lucas Harrington's a very tall kid, right? And if like the strategy for that is get it onto his head somewhere, put it in a good space that he's able to get to it, and there's a good shot at us getting that ball in. And so I think part of that is, Wells has mentioned that he brought in a coach to coach the attacking side of those set pieces. And maybe that's a good sign, right? If we're able to score off of that, that's a positive thing. And so I'm hoping to see that maybe that becomes more fruitful for us, and we'll see as the season goes on. But I think it's just showing that the things that they are learning from some of those new fundamentals might be clicking.
Fair point, Crash. But and the reason I was asking you, bro, how you feel about that, watching your squad score on a set piece. Now I gotta flip the coin, homie, and ask you, how do you feel about conceding on the set piece? I mean, is there really much you could do on the dead ball, on a dead ball kick? At that point, is it just, um,
Yeah.
I guess good service into the box, or on this point, just a direct kick towards the goal?
Yeah. Well, I think, for this conceit or concession of that free kick, I'm not overly worried about that. I mean, the back line is extremely young, right? And so for that to be perfect, I don't think it's, that big of a deal. Plus, I have to say though that it was a good strike. I mean, he was able to get around the wall and put it in a place that was dangerous, and they weren't prepared for. And I think, that is the kind of communication and lapses that happen when you have a very young back line. They're not, they're not hearing what Stefan's trying to tell them, or they don't quite understand exactly where he needs to be, and maybe they don't have that captain that knows exactly, oh, shift over or something along those lines. So I think if I'm not mistaken, it did come from the side with Jackson, and I think Harrington was on that side. So guys, younger guys, Jackson knows kind of what to do, but it was a good strike, so he got around the wall, and they didn't have the right positioning. So it's something they can address and know what to look for next time. You want those things to happen in preseason so they can call them out. But I'm not overly worried about that. If it was in more egregious, like gave up, during the run of play because of something completely broke down, yeah, then there's things to be a little more worried about. But I think, from that moment, it was a good strike, and I'll just give him Orlando credit for that.
Um, and to be fair, the Yapi goal came just shy of 2 minutes after that conceded goal there on the free kick. So just to break down those real quick, the first goal was a 19-minute Navarro, and then the second was 37-minute Navarro. Then in the second half we gave up the set piece goal there in the 61st, and then the 63rd was Darren Yapi's goal, and in the 79th minute, Harrington got his goal. Trash. I mean, to kind of summarize the whole game, I know we kind of touched on this, a little bit, but what stood out, bro, the most?
I think for me, the thing that stood out the most was just the identity that Matt is trying to instill in the team is starting to come out, and we didn't get to see a lot of that. But taking the information we did see, kind of watching the off the ball movements of the team, how they created those chances, where Hoffa was at for those chances, I think is really showing the identity of the team is starting to come to fruition. And I think, hearing, Matt talk about how this was a plan, they really prepared for this and was a coached, in that manner, is showing to show that identity and how they prepare. So for me, I think that's the biggest takeaway is we're starting to see what this team is made of and how they're going to approach these games, which is really exciting. And you're starting to see some new things. I think Hoffa's playing in a different role, and I think that's not a role in not being a striker or moving around. He wants to be. I think Wells wants Hoffa to be the target man. He wants him to stay up top. He doesn't want him to come down and be that person who's pressing, the midfield, right? He wants to make sure that he's the guy ready to go at the top the moment they break free, that they can find his head or his foot, downfield, making those runs. And I think that's starting to see that. You're seeing these overlapping runs with the fullbacks that were very intentional. You started seeing these movements on the different elements, which was really cool to see. And so you're just starting to see these identity pieces kind of pop out from the team, which is really fun. So I'm super excited from like a coaching perspective, just to how see the team kind of comes together and how that formation really comes to fruition. And defensively, we didn't see anything. So that is the biggest question I have. So it'll be interesting, but I just still think though the identity is really coming to fruition, and it could be a really exciting kind of way to play.
Yeah, fair point, bro. And to add to that, I guess for me, what stood out, and we touched on this a little bit, is just the multiple goal scorers, right? Just having, like you said, getting the attackers firing and making sure that when season starts, we're in mid-season form, baby.
Yep, exactly.
So, yeah, look, bro, I guess my biggest question is if we don't bring any bodies in, or if this is our squad, um, for the short future, then, is this type of system that we're going to be trying to build, is it going to be sustainable, and for sure, is this just a little bit of preseason noise, or is this signs of the early identity that we were kind of talking about, Crash?
Yeah.
Bro,
Gonna be
let's get
It's gonna be
this, let's get,
questionable. It's
go ahead.
we'll see. I think at the end of the day is really we'll see. I know we're looking to bring some new players in, and we got a confirmation on one, which is exciting. So yeah, I think we'll kind of go from there. But I think we need more to I don't think this is who we are. I think we still need to add for us to be exciting. But yeah, so we'll see. It's TBD.
Well, we're gonna actually come back to this topic, bro. We need more, right? We're gonna come back to this in just a second, because we're gonna segue into the next part of this podcast, which was, let's talk about the press conference a bit, Crash. And they did talk about what we need, but before we get into there, I just want to say big up to the I didn't know they were going to do that, Crash. Honestly, I got the notification on the WhatsApp, I mean on the YouTube, and I was like, "What's this? A Rapids presser?" So tried to get in on it. I caught a little bit of it live. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch it all, so I had to catch it back on replay. But look, I'm glad that they kind of just took the initiative to I guess open themselves up for interrogation, if you will, bro. They kind of just, opened the floor up to a bunch of questions. Good questions by some of the homies, for sure. I know Juaners was up in there. I think Mitch was in there from the Burgundy Wave. Um, and then you have the big hitters that normally in there. Yeah. Um, Trash, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the press conference, homie, just off of a summarization, tell me what your first impressions were, and just what you're feeling off of from that.
Well, yeah, I think, we got some really good questions about identity, which is important. We got some good questions on um, the reporting of the evaluations of the club, which I thought was really important. And so I think just generally it was really good because there were some challenging questions. I won't say they were hard questions. Those are pretty run of the mill questions any club front office coach should be able to respond to. But it was glad to hear those questions being asked, because they need to be asked, and they need to be able to respond to them in a way that's not just the cookie cutter. We're going to say the same thing over and over again. So I was pleased, at least from what Kevin Demoff had said. He was really talking about, it is unacceptable for an ownership group who's the most successful or most, uh, the biggest ownership group in the world, to have a product like the Rapids that's, one of the lowest on the list in MLS. And I did agree with kind of the way that he approached that was we need to create a better product on the field before that evaluation can ever go up anyway, you know? And I even touched on in some of my posts, you know, earlier in the week or before the press conference even happened, which is, you know, we can build a new stadium, we can do all these exciting things, but we can't fill the stadium we have now. And so, you know, we're not going to be this, you know, mega club or this club that's going to have, you know, challenge for trophies every season without having good quality players and good quality infrastructure to support those players. And so I think for me, you know, it's good to hear him saying the focus is the soccer, right? What's happening on the field, getting the coaches right, getting the team right. You know, so that's going to be the biggest key for me. Will we see the front office do that? It's a question, right? And I think that's where the lip service kind of comes in a bit, right? And so we're hearing it what we should be doing and seeing what we are doing, and we haven't seen the full product yet, so I'll reserve judgment. But historically, it's never lived up to what we've been told and what the expectations are. So I think that's the skepticism that I have, and really, and he even mentioned it. Kevin mentioned it, that it's an earned skepticism, and they have to, you know, if they want this to be a better product, then they're going to have to prove it to us. And you know, I'll still be there. I'll still be rooting for the Rapids, but whether I'm excited by it or not, that'll be the big question. Big question.
Bro, you know, before we go any further, I honestly want to not make a confession, but I want to give context to the viewer and to the listener. This is my third season supporting the Rapids. Um, and to add even more context, I've been a Tottenham fan for 16 years, and it took me up until about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago for me to finally realize the problem at the board office, at the board level, right? I've always just been at the focus on the fan level, so I've never really paid too much attention to what was going wrong at the top, or I've never focused too much at what was going on with the higher ups up until the last 3 years, until I became, you know, whatever Enoch and Levy out. But now that I pay more attention, and I guess it's probably because it's closer to home. And that we were talking about this backstage, Crash. I had to ask for you to kind of break some stuff down to me because it's new to me, bro. And I think, you know, I would assume there's probably listeners too that this is new to them as well too, right? So when I was hearing this press conference, and when I was hearing and I was listening to it and some of the questions, it got me thinking, and it got me to take a look at things, bro. And I guess where I'm getting at is I don't want 14 years of my relationship with my fandom of the Rapids to go by for me to then start paying attention to these things. You see what I'm saying, Crash? I would much rather be vigilant and observant of them. So I'm super grateful that I was able to catch this press conference, because it put not things into perspective, Crash, but it made me kind of open my eyes and be more, I guess, observant of what's going on, right? And I guess for me, the biggest qualm that I've really ever had with the board is the scoreboard, because that's what I hear a lot of people bitch about, is the scoreboard, right? So for me, I guess I'm barely getting these baby bits of information, or I guess now I'm paying more attention to them. But it's very interesting from my point of view, Crash, to see what's going on at that level. And I'm interested and I'm paying more attention to it. So I was very intrigued by the fact that, you know, Demoff was even, he was even comfortable saying, you know, it's embarrassing that, you know, we're that far down in the valuation. And that's what got me thinking, like, hold on, this is the same people that own Arsenal, the same people that own the Nuggets, the same people that own the Avalanche, right? The same people that own the Rams. And I start looking at the infrastructure and the mentality and the the championships, besides the Gunners. I mean, they're working at it, don't get me wrong, but they're not known for failures. I'll say that much. They're known for being a successful club, so they fit the mold of that too. So I'm gonna pay more attention to this type of stuff, Crash. And It's just crazy from my point of view to see this, bro. And it kind of puts shit into perspective, Crash, because I never pay attention to that kind of stuff, dude. So
Yeah.
I guess it was kind of an eye-opener from my point of view because um yeah, I want my club to take the steps necessary to be one of those heavyweights in the Western Conference, because if a club could buy their way into to buy their way into the MLS, San Diego, and be richer than us already, and to be they got further in the playoffs than we did, Crash.
Right.
So they had a more successful season than we did. Now I see that, and that's unacceptable for a team that has going on their 30th year to have figured it out.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it was an eye-opening
For sure.
press conference, and I agree that some of the questions that were asked were rightly so, bro. And we'll get into some of them, just like the rebranding. I know the homie Mitch asked the question on the rebranding,
Mhm.
and they didn't shy away from that. They didn't say it wasn't going to happen. They kind of left the doors open for something to happen.
Yeah.
And also, too, Crash, uh, to kind of continue with this, I was paying more attention to what they were saying about, oh, well, we're looking for the pieces to bring in. We're looking for this. But you know, the key thing that I took away from that, homie, was, but it has to be something that works out. It has to be something that is going to fit the mold. And that might be next summer. So that right when they threw that part, like, oh, it might be that right there planted a seed that, like, come on, that's to bring my little rant. That's the
Mhm.
same shit that I was being fed at Tottenham for the longest time is that. And I don't want to feel that with my club here at home, Crash.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, and I think that's the concern that we have. And like you mentioned the scoreboard, and I think everybody complains about the scoreboard because, and it's not because the scoreboard's going to win us any games. It's not going to make
Yeah.
the players and the soccer on the field any better. What it is it's a glaring and obvious giant board that we see every game and every time we're at Dick's that reminds us that this club does not care about anything. And and so I think that's the key of it is it's not that it changes that. So we need to see soccer change on the pitch before anything else gets better, and I agree with that. And hopefully this is the key, but I agree with you as well that when I started hearing maybe that's a summer transfer window or this or that, I was like, God, this is the same junk that we hear all the time. I will tell you right now, this team is not good enough to compete with the top level teams in the league with the players that we have. We need, we have a bunch of good quality players, but we do not have enough players that are dangerous. So if one person goes down, then who's stepping in that's going to really fill that spot at a level that's going to keep us competing every week? You know, could could a Wayne Frederick jump in and fill a role because of an injury? Possibly, yes, right? There might be a bad game here or there, but he could probably get us through, a week or two if we needed to, we've got Ronan and Atencio and Hamzat, those things like, can they fill the role that we might need for a short period? Yes, I'm sure that they can, and they are quality players, but they're not the players that are changing the game. And I think that's the key of it is we have a lot of really quality kind of depth players, but we don't have those players that are like the game changing players on the field. And so that's where I'm concerned is like, I agree, a winger, a center back, I would love to see that happen. I think if we're negotiating for a center back and it's that center back from League Two in Spain and he's not coming until summer, and like, what are we doing? Like, why are we
Yeah.
even doing that? Why are we even entertaining that? I don't see that as the right opportunity for us. Why aren't we trying to get a solid player that can come in now, really affect change in this game? We're talking about a winger. That makes sense to me, right? I think one, it makes sense to me as in the players that they have outside of Sealy and Yapi and some of the other guys aren't quite there, and maybe Alexis Manyoma is not really fitting the bill, and so that loan's going to expire, so they want to find somebody to bring him in. That makes sense, but also Yapi's needs to be supporting Hoffa, or Hoffa needs to be supporting Yap. Like, there needs to be, a partnership there, like, for a competition, and I think that they can be, but we need some depth there, and so I think without having a solid winger at that position, if we bring in a good quality, dangerous winger to pair alongside Sealy, I'm excited. I mean, that's awesome. And then we have two awesome strikers that can fit when one's not having a great game, or needs some fresh legs, or gets an injury or a knock or something. We have that depth, which is what we want. But now, if Yappy's at wing, who do we have? Alex Harris, Donovan Phillips? Like, come on, like, not bad guys. I mean, they have some good quality, but they're young and they're not proven, and we can't
Yeah.
rely on them to take us to the MLS Cup. And so I think that's the key of it is, so, will these expectations, will this additions to the team come quick enough for us to make the change? I don't know. But luckily we did get our past friend, Miguel Navarro back, from Argentina, and so he's good to see him back in the club, and actually we might get to see him actually start and play a game.
Well, and another thing about him too that I heard is he's got his green card, so it's not like we have to wait for any
Yeah.
type of processes to happen. He could suit up and boot up right away, homie. He could literally plug and play if he's able to.
Yeah.
So
And he's with the team, he's with
I will say,
training, he's ready to go.
yeah, and in the press conference, they did address that. They did say that, I mean, I don't know how much you kind of have to keep it professional when you talk about that, but they said they kind of kept their eye on them, just like they do all the other players that kind of come through the Rapids organization. So I guess this is probably one of those moves that they could say, hey, obviously not the needle mover, we know that, but as much as far as like numbers wise, definitely he's going to add to that left back position where we thought we need probably some extra cover, right? Just
Yeah.
because we don't know what's been going on with that battle there.
True. Yeah, and I think, I don't know if Sam is in the cards for this team. I mean, we'll see. But I will guarantee, I mean, Navarro is a proven left back. He played very well with Chicago Fire before he came to us. He played and got solid minutes down in Argentina with C. Talleres. And so he's just going to be a starting left back. Like, I'm just going to put it out there. He's not going to probably start right away because he needs to get integrated to the system, but I expect him to be fighting and pushing Sam for minutes and probably winning. That being said, if we don't see Sam starting against Seattle and we see Jackson start, I think that's telling you that Sam doesn't really have a role on this team. And that makes sense to me. And with his with his salary, with the way he's been performing, he might be a move that we see happen at some point in this season that I wouldn't be surprised of.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see him suit up. I'm excited to see him finally wear the kit and the badge. I won't say burgundy because he won't wear burgundy. But at the end of the day, I think he will be a good addition to that left side, and will be a good addition to the team for sure.
I like that, Crash. I like that. Just kind of looking over here at these notes that I took about the press conference. We kind of touched a little bit before how he's going to use the motivation, how he used the motivation from the mentioned list earlier, where we were going to end off. He kind of said, I don't know what his exact words, but he said, this is what they think, and we're definitely not going to finish there. We're going to build our own story from that. I like that. One thing that he said that really stood out for me and that I liked was he said players need to act like starters. That way I could see them as starters. Not the words that he said, but something to the extent of that, basically like, hey man, if you don't see yourself as a starter, my homie, I'm not going to see yourself as a starter. So very important that these players, think of themselves as first teamers, think of themselves as starters, and if you're not, bro, then the mentality is just not there. You're obviously not looking at yourself you're obviously not looking at yourself like you're able to, carry the weight or something like that. And I thought that was a very good shout on Matt Wells's part. Like he basically publicly put that out there to the whoever's listening, saying, "Hey, it's up to you, man. Like if you want to be a starter, then you got to act like one, be one, and you will be one." What do what are your thoughts about that, homie?
No, I did hear that, and he, something so along the similar lines where he was talking about just his approach, and he is honest, and I think that's I touched on this a little bit last week, I think, and his ability to call players out in a positive way, I think, is really good, right? And I think that's what you want to see from a manager, right? You want to see, that push, that saying, "Hey, you're not cutting it," or, the team's not pulling their weight, or, yeah, the back line isn't doing what they needed. Sometimes you need that kick in the pants. And I love, he mentioned about, that honesty that he's going to bring, um, is welcomed because, you know, that's what the supporters want to hear. We don't want to hear, rainbows and unicorns all the time. We want to know, like, yeah, we're not cutting it. They're not doing what I have asked them to do. And that's what we want to know, because if we're just hearing all these, positive talk constantly, then it's like, well, are you kicking these guys in the ass here? Are you making them are you making them run? Are you making them work harder? Are you making them earn it? You know, because that's how success happens, right? You don't get it by just being positive all the time. And, there has to be that hard work, that has to be that adversity that's going to push a team to be better. And if we're not seeing it, and we're not hearing it, then we don't expect it to be happening. And so I think that's the one positive thing we're going to see from Matt is he's going to push these players to be better, and he's not going to sugarcoat it.
Well, you know, there was a clip from I think maybe like one of his first videos that he did with us when he got to Florida for the preseason, and the first thing he said when he seen the players is, "They're still on their feet. What's going on?" Like he was expecting them to be like just worn out, bro. And would you imagine, bro, the first time you're seeing your gaffer in the flesh, bro, and he's wondering what you're still doing on your feet and not, worn out, bro.
Okay.
I
That's
thought
what I
that
want.
was a very good first impression.
Yeah. That's what I want from a gaffer. I
Crash,
want
any
I want that person to be I want, pushing them. And if you didn't catch it, I was listening to Rob Holding was on the Colorado's podcast. I listened to it on my drive home today, and made a really good note that kind of goes hand in hand with that. And part of that is that, he Rob Holding's used to, training in the Prem, right? He's used to training, that is hard. He's used to preseasons that is challenging. And he said this was a very, you know, challenging preseason. And so I think that's the key of it is like, he's like, this is what I'm used to. This is what you go to England, this is what you're gonna get. You're not getting this cookie cutter,
Yeah.
week preseason. He's like, I was really happy about that. And so I think that's good. That's what we want. We want these guys to be dogs. We want these guys to be ripped and get out there and fight every minute, because if they're not, what are they doing, right? We want these guys to be prepared to fight battle, not roll over when it's the easiest. So I was really excited to hear some of those notes as well.
Dude, to touch on Rob Holding a bit, um, he Matt Wells was also asked during the presser if he had any if he was kind of leaning towards a captain, if he had any thoughts of the captain, and he did. He said, he was kind of leaning towards. Wait, not leaning. He said he liked how Zach Steffen and Keegan kind of showed that natural leader ability about them. Where I was kind of surprised he didn't mention Rob Holding. Rob Holding's an older guy in the locker room, coming from
Mhm.
a experienced club. I know he played at Crystal Palace the season before coming to here, but I didn't get much time. But still, that doesn't mean he. Are you surprised he wasn't mentioned in somewhat of that leader talk, or maybe it just
No.
just wasn't mentioned? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to read too much into it, Crash, but still, you would think a player like Rob Holding coming into the organization as little as the Rapids would walk in and probably be a walk-in captain.
Well, and I think when you look at it, and he actually talked about it a little bit on the podcast today, was, you know, they asked him, like, "Are you seen as a leader?" And he is. I mean, he's a more veteran, member of the team. But he also mentioned too, is like when he says when Keegan and Zach speak, he listens, and so I think Keegan and Zach just are commanding that locker room, um, and so that's where that natural leadership comes into play. I could see if Keegan isn't starting, similar to what happened last season, I could see that Rob getting, the armband. I could see him being the on-field captain because it is hard for a goalie to be that captain. They're not, in the mix of everything and helping adjust. It's just hard to communicate. And especially when you're getting in, in the referees' faces and things and arguing for things, that's a tough thing to happen. So I could see him getting the armband if Keegan's out on the field, but my guess is Keegan will retain that armband, and we'll see it kind of switch between Zach and Rob depending on the situation, or between Rob and Keegan depending on the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. I'm actually gonna catch the rundown. Isn't it called the rundown? I think it's the rundown if
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
so, yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, I'm gonna have to catch that one. I did see they post that. Krash, anything from the presser that I guess stood out that we didn't talk about maybe?
No, not really. I think that we got some insight on some potential incomings. Hopefully, those are happening soon, which good. I did like the transparency, at least transparency on its face,
Yeah.
that we got from Kevin Demoff. So I think positive things we'll see, and I think, but it's just to be determined. See what happens. Let's see if they're really putting their money where their mouth is, and they really are trying to turn this club around to be that elite level club that they are talking about, and that we would love to see. It's going to take time, but I think the season's going to be a good litmus test if it happens.
Oh man, one thing that made me laugh, bro, and I'm just chuckling just thinking about it right now is poor Matt Wells, bro, is probably gonna walk out onto the pitch for the first time, turn around and look at that fucking scoreboard and say, "I've heard so much about you."
Probably, I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
He's gonna go for that first and just turn around and be like, "Huh, so that's the scoreboard, huh?"
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's fucking funny, dude. All right, man. Let's see here. Well, just to, I guess, start to wind down, man. Look, dude, I did want to give you a bit of, I did want you to take some of the space here and kind of talk about what happened here in the youth community Crash. I know some close to the youth community happened, homie, before we wrap up this show.
Yeah.
And it definitely deserves for you to say some stuff on it.
Yeah, no, I did wanna state it. I posted on my X account, a while back, and I know some of the other guys have as well. But we did have a bit of a tragedy, and this one for me is a bit closer, than I would like it to be, and I wouldn't want it to happen to anyone, obviously. But the family that was affected, was in my Rapids North community. And so the Aguirre family lost their daughter Cece, in a car accident. She was 10 years old. She played for the Rapids Youth Soccer Club in the pre-elite team. She has three sisters, or three other siblings. I'm sorry. One of her sisters is actually in the age group, and with one of my partner coaches on his team. So, it's a great family, great soccer family, and we just are just devastated. So my heart goes out to them, and hoping that they, just feel the weight of our collective arms just wrapping around them and supporting them through this, because that's to lose a family member, lose a child, is nothing I'd wish on anyone. So we love them. We care about them. We're there for them. And just for the Rapids community and the community at large, I'll repost it again, but there is a GoFundMe to help support that family to get through this, really challenging time. And so just wanted to make sure that we made note of that because it is important. So as a community, especially as a Rapids community, our goal is to always bring everyone together and support each other through thick and thin. And this is a good opportunity for us to reach out to a family in need.
Mm. Top man, good man, Krash. Thank you for doing that, homie. Um, Look, bro, and now to bring it back to the podcast, Krash. So we're gonna go ahead with the watch along, or the vibe out, I guess, not necessarily the watch along, but yeah, the watch along vibe out. Coming up this weekend. I was seeing it's a Sunday game, a bit of a later game because we are on the West Coast. So for any of you Rapid sickos that want to get the fix, we will, I guess, we'll have to figure out, Krash, how we're going to do that and get, I guess,
Yeah.
available for the homies that want to join or whatever, however we're going to do that.
For sure. Yeah, and I'll have it posted, and we'll get this on our Confluence YouTube channel, so we'll be live there, and then we'll also try to get that live on X as well, so you can watch it and just kind of chime in. And whether it's on YouTube, you can chat us there. On X, you can chat us there, and we'll chat back and kind of monitor. But again, we're just there to have fun, hang out. I know some guys will be at the stadium. Up in Seattle, there's a group that's going to be there watching, which will be exciting to see them, cheer on the Burgundy boys. And then I know there's another watch along kind of in person at a bar. So if you're not there and you want to join with us, come and hang out. I'm going to be watching the game. I think the game, if I'm not mistaken, kicks off at 7:15 our time. I think I could be wrong. But yeah,
it was 9:30.
Is it 9:30 our time? Maybe I was just looking at well, either way, we'll be watching the game. Yeah, so we'll be watching the game and hanging out, and just come and kick it with us, and let's root on the guys and see how they do.
Absolutely. Open invite, my homies. Open invite. Krash, we have to do this before we end the show, before the season even kicks off, before any ball is kicked, before any goals go in. How about some quick fire predictions? We kind of did a few episodes ago, kind of like a broad expectations, if you will. But now let's kind of narrow it down a bit and get into maybe what could be some before the season starts, anticipated awards, if you will, or predictions, if you will. And I guess what we could start with is what I have a question for you is, who will be your Rapids MVP this year?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I tell you what, if we can keep him, it'll be Yapi.
Ooh.
I think if he keeps playing the way he's at, I could see him really being a game changer. And if we can't keep him off the field, he's gonna be that guy.
Yeah. Going for a wild card, my homie. I'm gonna keep it safe, and I'm gonna say we're gonna need tons of production from a player that wears the number 10. Paxton Aronson is going to be my Rapids MVP. Of course, contributing with set pieces, contributing with assists, and he's also going to be contributing with goals himself. Krash, we can even go with what about which young player is going to surprise everyone?
I'm gonna go. I think at the end of the day, I've got to stick with my my good friend Judgmental Jim and go with Lucas Harrington. I think that young giant Aussie is going to be a big surprise to a lot of people that just didn't know him, and Jim's been calling him out, so I'm gonna stick with him.
My homie Jim's putting in some faith into the people that come from that part of the world, huh?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I get it. I'm gonna go with I guess for a youngster, and if he's getting minutes, I guess it's gonna be up to him if he takes advantage. He's definitely gonna get some time. I'm gonna say Bryce Jameson.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just gonna go out for a shout. You know what I mean? He's definitely gonna be a young player. If he could get an opportunity, I know that he was doing bits when he was out there in California,
Mhm.
so playing with Orange County. So if he could come over here and replicate any type of that form, and again contribute to any type of service from the wide area, then I see no reason why he can't make an impact on this squad. Again, I know Matt Wells likes to show faith into the young players, so take advantage of your opportunity, Bryce, and see yourself as a starter so you could be a starter, young
There you
man.
go. Love it. Sure.
Let's see. What about your underperformer, Crash?
Mm.
Like right now, who do you just be like, man, I have the bar set this high, but you know what? I just feel like he's gonna let me down.
Well, I'm gonna say I don't think I have a bar set very high, but I think it's gonna be Sam Vines. I think if we'll see. I don't have a whole lot of faith. I hope that he surprises me. I think he's capable, but I think that's the underperformer on the team right now, especially with the price tag that's associated to him. He's just not living up to it.
Mhm. That's a very good shout, bro. I mean, that's a good way of thinking about it. Um, I'm just I'm gonna say this, but I don't hope that it happens. I'm just saying it's definitely there to happen. Josh Atencio, if he doesn't get confidence, if he doesn't get the minutes, if he doesn't take advantage of his time, I can definitely see him kind of get in a lapse of maybe just no confidence. I mean, look, bro, I don't mean to like bash on him because I rate him. I rate him. I'm just saying if the bar is set high, it's set high for him. I expect him to do it, but I also know that that midfield is stacked, and we have players that will take advantage of the opportunity. A Ronan is going to be there waiting to get some time. Um, there's going to be other players. I mean, right now
Mhm.
I'm drawing a blank, but it happened to him at his last club, right? Where was he at? At Seattle? He kind of lost his spot to Obed Vargas, who of course turned out to be a beast. But I
Right.
mean, he lost his spot, lost his confidence, got sent to another team. And I just would hate for that to happen because I do rate Josh Atencio and I want nothing but the best for him. But I mean, I could definitely see that being an area where there's going to be other players ready to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've already stated the midfield they're happy with where the midfield is, so I could see that.
Yeah. Um, Top scorer, we going with Rafa?
I mean, if it's not, then what are we doing? Like
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
he's gonna be starting. We're not putting he's gonna be the one getting, the ball, the most. I think it's gotta be Hoffa.
What about just a quick fire bold take?
Bold take. Bold take. Zach Steffen, World Cup goalie.
I like that.
I
My
think
my
he steps up, he performs, he gets on the radar, he makes the squad. I'm not gonna tell you he's gonna start, but I think he proved something, and Potch sees something in him, brings him back in. I think maybe luck due to an injury, somebody gets a knock or something, can't make it, he's gonna be the first called up, and, we might even see him on the field, so it'd be interesting.
Yeah, nice one, homie. My bold take, we're gonna see a 5-0 thumping. We're gonna smash somebody 5-0
Let's
at the dick, my
go.
homie. I'm going for that one.
Let's go. Oh my god, that would be amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we gotta make sure that these players are firing on all cylinders, my homies. And that starts this Sunday against Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Well, Portland? Portland.
Seattle.
Portland,
Yeah,
Portland.
Portland's the week after.
Seattle. Okay. All right, my homies. Well, Crash, unless you have anything else to say, my homies, I think that is us just about wrapped up.
Well, before we go, we can't leave without at least saying how we think we're gonna do. What is your prediction
Damn it,
for Sunday?
you caught me, Crash.
You didn't want to say it. I know.
Uh, no, we can, bro. No, definitely. Go ahead, bro. Or you want me?
Okay, I'll jump in. So I like to bet on the games, just like little dollar amounts, just to keep it interesting and fun. And I definitely put my $10 or whatever on the Rapids to win. I did that just out of hope and faith. It's a new team. It's a lot to ask. But I there's something inside of me that I might get let down later, but I kind of feel like we're going to come out swinging and people are not going to be prepared. I think you look at what we did last year against Seattle. They were up 3-0. We came back 3-0 and tied, it made it, created a tie game. If we ever firing on cylinders like we did against Orlando, maybe we are able to sneak one in at this beginning. I don't think it's going to last long, but I think it might be a surprise to them and they're not ready for it. And so maybe we eke out a win. Maybe we get that 3 points.
Yeah, my bad. I misunderstood you. I thought you wanted a prediction for the season, but for this game, definitely, homie. Um, yeah, this game is doable. Why can't we go up there and do them, homie? Element of surprise that we talked about earlier, coming off of a good result, didn't pay attention to what they did, so I couldn't tell you how they are doing. But look, bro, I just feel like with this new manager, we kind of have like, I want to say like the team should be more bonded together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Um,
think they are. Yeah.
and just when you go to war, homie, when you go to battle, when you go to any adversity with a group of people, it only builds character and it makes you guys essentially, I mean, hopefully it should make you a better unit. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that just ride the high off of this victory, a bit more time going through that gauntlet that was preseason. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that we can definitely just be a better cohesive unit on the day. And if we are Crash, we're walking out of there with 3 points, homie. And any points that we can get, I've noticed this in MLS, points that you can get on the road are crucial, my homie. Best way to start, pick up some points there. I think we can. Why not?
Yeah. I'm going to say 3-1.
I'm going with damn, I don't want to copy with the 3-1, but I like that scoreline, bro. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's go.
3-1.
I think we get two right in the first half, and then we pick up a third late, and then we're able to keep them to 1. That's where I'm at. I don't know how I feel, but that's kind of where I'm thinking, and I'm hoping it works out.
Well, I guess we're gonna touch base before the game starts off. We'll see how we feel back then when we come back on Sunday, my homie. Look, if you guys are still here, sticking around, appreciate you. Go down, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you go 5-star ratings. Go to all of the platforms. We're at the Confluence Pod. That's at the Confluence Pod, and make sure you type in there Confluence Pod Rapids. Definitely a better way to find it. Yeah, thank you guys for chilling. Thank you guys for kicking in with us. And of course, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Up the Pids. Let's go.
Yeah. My heart, C38, Lil Quaz and KTK. Locals on the fly causing turbulence, causing waves on our way to the confluence. New voice for the fans, from the pitch to the stands. My heart, locals in the South Bank lads. Leo, Quaz and the whole meat crash. Hold up, what's this? A raft on the water to the confluence. Yeah, it's trance and banter, rhymes and laughter. Head to the waters if it's piss you're after. C38, the time is now. Locals on the drums to hold it down. Like the stream and 2 5 stars. The mile high hot spur and crash the car. Yeah.